Who would have thought? In the 2021 Remnant Walks event, Kal'tsit had a beautiful, can even become a plot twist that spans across time. In the PV of the Disintegration Synthesis event, just released by Arknights, the original text left a signature at the bottom of the personnel file for agents on Rhode Island. Conducting the final review for all members joining Rhode Island, the person who left the signature silently turned into Monster. And in the PRTS interface upgraded to version 2.21, the names of people who logged into PRTS have also been replaced with Monster, that always worries about Roden's fate, cares for Mia and the doctor.
There would actually be a day when she put down the responsibilities she didn't want to let go.
Thinking back to the end of the official Thanksgiving live stream in 2020, the entire animation of Kal'tsit presented in black and white. And among the black, white, and gray, only the monster crystal stands out. Everything seemed to have been foreshadowed. That Kal'tsit who has been accompanying us since the server's launch. What exactly happened? Why protect Kal'tsit's monster? Would Dayach from the symbiotic state with Kal'tsit install solo on the island? Even replace Kal'tsit in fulfilling the mission she had always been responsible for. In that animation, someone was looking back at the Doctor and Mia from a distance. Kal'tsit, who seems to exist in a different space-time from everyone else. Where did they go? Despite the fact that we do not know the answers to these questions at present, but the various negative scenes implied in the PV of the dissolution and synthesis, I still can't help but feel a little nervous for Kal'tsit. PRTS 访问被拒绝. This means that the PRTS permissions for Rhode Island have indeed been banned. And originally it was just Dr. Amelia and Kal'tsit walking through the corridor together. In a blink of an eye, the three silhouettes were left with only the Doctor and Mia. Contacted Kal'tsit about her disappearance in Rhode Island and what she said to Monster. Eternal life is destined to be lonely. I have tasted its flavor. You can also walk on your own, right, Monster? This makes the PV start. Kal'tsit's familiar voice. Monster and I will protect everyone. Especially you, Doctor. Became the last message like Teresa's voice. Maybe. Kal'tsit put Monster at the beginning of this sentence. It is hoped that Doctor can trust her just as much. Trust this new partner who will take over her mission. Only because Kal'tsit is very likely to leave us. In the PV, we saw some extremely horrifying scenes. At the end of Chapter 14 as main storyline, there's exited the conflict between Victorians, Arknights entered the originium universe alone and face off against Priestess. In the PV of Dissolution Compound, we saw him collapse against a massive cluster of originium crystals, although the warrior's face still bore a stern expression. However, in the human body that was split vertically, Thez has even converted all the flesh and organs inside his skull cavity into originium crystals. And that which bore countless hopes. It is also the second home for many agents who have come ashore. Even unimaginable damage occurred. The familiar scenes of the Rhode Island cafeteria and the Rhode Island by the originium crystals. The entire ship radiates a melancholic red light, close to all these upheavals. All pointed towards the upcoming mainline of Arknights 3.0, the narrative related to the originium Priestess. Before parsing the text that appeared in this PV, we need to add some content first. Many friends who are not familiar with the story of Arknights, perhaps not very familiar with the background story of this main storyline. And in order to ensure that everyone doesn't miss this main storyline, I will provide a brief summary of the story in a more casual way. Of course, this will include some tagging behavior mainly for easier understanding. Therefore, please do not take the actual game plot too seriously. In simple terms, as a doctor of Rhode Island, are scientists who survived from the previous human civilization. Kal'tsit can be understood as a Kal'tsit robot that serves humans. Priestess is another person among the surviving scholars. Your relationship with Priestess is very complex, complicated as if they were partners, close friends, and bosom buddies. The word used to describe intimate relationships between humans. All of them are suitable for describing the two of you, but it can't fully encompass your relationship. In summary, after the fall of the former civilization, the two of you are on the planet named Terra. Side by side, they seek the hope of continuing civilization, but you and Priestess at how to continue civilization matters. There is a slight minor disagreement. And this disagreement, regarding the originium, which serves as a fundamental setting in the world of Arknights. Now that the situation you finally remembered. Originium of Terra. Actually, it was you and the Priestess who came up with this. Your original intention was to take advantage of the properties of originium, which can store information indestructible. However, the difference lies in, you might hope that originium could become the torch passed onto a new civilization, nurturing the growth of a new civilization. Priestess, despite the possibility that she might not be scheduled for she was undoubtedly more convinced all civilizations ultimately fall to destruction, and wanting to survive from this unavoidable destruction. Only by utilizing originium can we harness everything of civilization of all life. This way everyone can actually exist in another dimension of the universe within originium in a way that cannot be conceived by the outside world. But indeed the way it stands is eternal. It is particularly important to emphasize. This disagreement does not mean that the Priestess is a cold and ruthless person. On the contrary, she likely did all of this out of extreme love. wishing to save the universe on the brink of destruction. In the storyline of Lone Star, we learn the stars above Terra are fake. And the function of the barrier layer also prevents the observers who once destroyed the previous civilization look towards Terra. But the Doctor back then, indeed, a different path from the Priestess was chosen. Both sides engaged in intense ideological The conflict was intense too. Back then, he was still the prophet selected to send Kal'tsit off, Rodan. Then came the story of the prophet's supposed death. This part of the content in the previous Babel video. I have provided detailed explanation. Finish the summary of the backstory. We can also analyze the copy that appears in the PV. We will follow the PV chronological order. Translate from front to back. Firstly, another fading galaxy. We don't have much time left. Hoping for the future is our nature. We are anchors for each other in this void of stars. I will wait for you at the end of time in that world. I hope after crossing the silent eternal night, when I opened my eyes again, I could still see you in me. These lines of copy. I personally tend to believe what the Priestess said. The world mentioned here probably refers to the world within originium that has internalized These copy have an important purpose. Is it hope that we have a correct expectation of the attitude and feelings towards the Doctor from Priestess, and do not crudely equate Priestess with the heavy woman? And then the next sentence. I tend to agree with what Kal'tsit said. We will learn to love. Loving life, loving existence. Someone once said it to me like this. It could happen between Kal'tsit and the Prophet. When the Prophet sent Kal'tsit away, told Kal'tsit this sentence. I hope that Kal'tsit as an artificial life form can learn what love is. The next moment, it was time for the introduction of the operator at Monster. The text written in black font is, eternal life is destined to be lonely. I have tasted its flavor. You should be able to walk your own path too. This sentence has already been mentioned before. Combined with scene logic, it should be Kal'tsit's message to Monster. Also once again, confirms Kal'tsit's departure. The following text reads, hope was never a lie. The original sentence was in black, but it soon became white. And it also added the second half. Rhode Island still has the opportunity to continue that remote possibility. The change in black and white colors of the font. It represents two people. This means that two people told this sentence together. The first half of the sentence is said by Kal'tsit. The second half of the sentence is Monster appended, from black to white. There is a meaning that goes from darkness to light. After that, a string of black text appeared at the end of the PV. You have made your own choice. Please lead the island of Rod to continue on. Then I will also fulfill my vow. Here many people's first reaction might be that the Priestess said such a thing to the Doctor, but that's not how I see it. On the contrary, this sentence is said by a new character, because I personally feel Priestess has a very strong personality. But if Priestess wants to express such a meaning, she would never use such a heavy word as swear. And it would use a more purposeful and less obvious way of saying it. At the same time, this sentence seems like they want to take a different path from Rhode Island. I prefer this to be a Doctor who knows Amiya. People who know Rhode Island. In the choice that concerns the continuation chose to stand on the side of the Priestess. In my eyes, Priestess might be called the amalgamation of love and despair, like a dead celestial body, emitting a warm yet cold light. Her conflict with the Doctor cannot be simply evaluated which side is good and which is evil. Standing from the perspective of Rhode Island, perhaps we will consider the death of theirs isn't Kal'tsit's departure, relate to the appearance of Priestess or the originium plan of Priestess. But at the end of the day, Priestess and Doctor are just using different methods. Explore the possibility of a surviving civilization. After all, as a woman who could stand shoulder to shoulder with the Doctors of that flourishing era. Priestess. How could she be a simple woman who can be summed up in one word? However, as a Doctor, how do you deal with such a Priestess? Your close relationship with Priestess. How will it affect your decision again? Can be said, in the game story of Arknights before this main story, can all be understood as an introduction to Terra, like the integration movement chapter. It introduced us to the basic setting of originium and infection and Terra, Victoria chapter main story and various activity plots. Then it brought us to understand the different races and cultures of the various countries in Terra, including the stories intertwined within. And it was in the 15th chapter of this main storyline, Dissolution and Synthesis. The plot of the game revolves around the conflict between the Terra civilization and its predecessor. It tells the story of you and Priestess. We are supposed to continue the originium plan of the previous civilization. Let originium cover the entire Terra, or should it be for the people currently surviving on Terra? Seek methods to reconcile the conflict between two civilizations. Unfortunately, the choice of this question is not entirely in our hands. Priestess does not intend to give us more room to maneuver. Since it has come to this, Terra has already established itself through its own development, stand at a position that can influence the originium. The corresponding plot is even one of the 3 original originium stones that served as the foundation for the originium project. This continues. If we are to ensure the smooth execution of the originium plan, Priestess can no longer choose to be an outsider quietly observing. Just like even though in the PV, the black-framed glasses of Priestess prizes saw placed beside the stone sarcophagus where Doctor was once asleep. However, originium internalized the tumultuous sea of Solara, and hanging high above the double moon, the white rhombus that seemed like judgment was approaching. All declare the Priestess. She has already made her decision. As for why Kal'tsit is a key character in the PV, as many people have foreseen, Chapter 15 main story dissolution and synthesis, as the first main story of Arknights, it must have just been a prelude to gradually reveal the past of our long-desired ancient civilization. The premise is to choose an appropriate narrative perspective. Let's enter this story, and the key figures related to it. It is Kal'tsit. Earlier, I had joked Kal'tsit is a cat-shaped robot that serves humans, although in the current game, the plot does not provide a detailed explanation of how Kal'tsit was created, but we can still derive a lot from many plot fragments. Understood the relationship between Kal'tsit and Doctor. For example, in the Fire Blue Heart storyline, Kal'tsit is called a Ep13, contacted Kal'tsit, who was killed by theirs but later revived. It sounds like Kal'tsit is an artificial intelligence that can be mass-produced and replicated. And in the storyline of Solitary Star, SST referred to Kal'tsit as a servant of humanity. And why is Kal'tsit? There has never been a mention of the ancient civilization in Priestess because the Priestess herself placed a restriction on her. She cannot violate the command of the Priestess. In the Babel storyline, we can understand that it was the Doctor who originally called Kal'tsit Shameten, took off the name Kal'tsit, and she was sent away from Rhode Island. And at that time, the conflict between the Doctor and the Priestess in the originium project has already begun to action ascending Kal'tsit away from Rhode Island. Somewhat implies a final entrustment. Sum up the above information. It can be said that Kal'tsit between Doctor and Priestess. Not only did he inherit the will of the previous Doctor, also, they are the most clear about Priestess. This is very suitable for showing the differences between Priestess and Doctor. In the PV, we can also see this English sentence. The Doctor, familiar with the plot of Arknights, is not unfamiliar because it also has another variant called stand by her side, means standing beside her. Placed in the PV of dissolutions emphasis. Actually, it is very intriguing. The text will stand by her side. BMA stand by my side translates to English. Could it be that Kal'tsit told the Doctor, do not stand beside her, and to stand by my side? What should I say? Here, her refers to Kal'tsit throughout. Just when facing the Priestess nowadays, Kal'tsit told the Doctor in first person, awake before the screens. Don't forget your unwavering belief. To believe in ourselves as prophet. The miracle and hope of the civilization that is still prophesied to endure. Chapter 15 main storyline. It can be said that it is already very complicated just from the title. It also foreshadowed that the plot of the story would likely involve intricate relationships between characters. Dissociation can be read as understanding. So dissociation and recombination. It is also about understanding. This might be referring to Kal'tsit and the Doctor finally reached a mutual understanding. Kal'tsit stood firmly on the side of the Doctor. And at the moment when the Doctor was about to be shaken by the Priestess, Kal'tsit, who inherited Teresa's will, steadfastly protect the current Doctor of Geo. Perhaps it means the dissociation foretells of Kal'tsit's departure, and compound represents the actual implementation of monster, which once existed as a crystal. Dissociation and recombination. It says about the Doctor and the Priestess. In summary, no matter how you interpret it from any direction, the story that this dissolution and synthesis might tell, all of this will involve explosive character relationships and emotional conflicts, comparable to the first revelation of the truth about the ancient civilization. In summary, April 7th, Chapter 15 main story dissolution and synthesis event will officially launch. I will also start a live stream at that time. Watch together with everyone. What I want to say, no matter what trials Rhode Island will face, just like we have already faced ourselves as I see it, we should all believe in ourselves. Also believe in yourself, always. To personally witness what kind of person Priestess is. Also made a choice for his great cause once again. No matter this time, are we heavily damaged? The beliefs of the idealists have never changed. The above items, it is my understanding to this event, and the game plot preview before the event starts. I hope that I can provide assistance for all the Doctors who have been following the story and friends who want to learn more about the plot of Arknights, offering insignificant assistance. If you like this video, request a like and follow. I am Yang. Let's not miss the live stream of our story on April 7th. Bye-bye.